Hello and welcome to the Quadcast. I'm the founder and host, John McAlevey. This podcast, while mainly for and about folks like me who have had their lives affected by a spinal cord injury, is really for anyone who just wants to be inspired. In this space, I speak with individuals who have had life-changing injuries and accidents, and yet in spite of insurmountable odds in many cases, have gone on to do amazing things with those lives. I'm reminded of the old metaphor that when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Well, my guests, they take those lemons and roll right over them with their wheelchairs and rollators on their journey. I'd like to thank you for lending me your ears for another session of OT and PT for the soul. So, what do you say we get this show on the road? Cristina Cortez, welcome to the Quadcast.
My pleasure, John.
I'm doing well, thanks, and I'm really happy that you're going to join us today. It's going to be a different version of the Quadcast. As my frequent flyers know, I'm close to about 100 shows now, and most of my subjects and my guests are individuals who have endured a spinal cord injury either through an accident, whether it's a car or a motorcycle, diving incidents, ocean accidents, and some folks with tumors and or surgeries and things like that. You have a much different story, and rather than me try to step on your toes, I'm going to let you tell us exactly how it is that you find yourself in the disabled world. So if you could, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, to start off, the way I came by paralysis is that I was born with the cerebral palsy, quadriplegic cerebral palsy, where all four limbs are affected. It happened upon birth, but the onset occurred at 2 years old when I was actually diagnosed. So I had it from the beginning. So quadriplegic cerebral palsy has always been part of my life. But as quadriplegic cerebral palsy actually happens, there are 5 levels of paralysis in childhood in this childhood paralysis where there are 5 levels. I am level 4, meaning that I use a wheelchair, I use supports, I need assistance with ADLs. The closest comparison would be in spinal cord injury. I would be an incomplete C5, C6.
Okay.
So you could imagine that.
Yes, we're pretty close. I'm an incomplete
Okay.
C3-4. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So C5, C6.
Okay.
Comparison. But within the quadriplegia, there are also four levels of occurrence, which means that how it happens is that the midbrain is affected, but it is also that the right side is stronger than the left.
Okay.
But the legs are impacted, but the upper body is strong.
Yes. So if you could, Cristina, tell us what exactly is cerebral palsy and how it affects your daily life.
Cerebral palsy is the childhood version of paralysis, where it occurs upon birth, but is diagnosed either later in life or it is diagnosed upon birth. In my case, it happened as a result of midbrain injury upon birth. I was premature at 26 weeks of my mother's pregnancy as a result of her preeclampsia. Each day of her pregnancy, from the occurrence of that preeclampsia, which was June 2nd, each day counted. The everyday matter. So what happens is that each day increased the likelihood that the resulting child would be stronger.
Okay.
So every day counts with every child. Every day counts, but also it had to kind of push her to keep for the body, not to actually invade the child.
Yes.
So what happens is that she was diagnosed she was routinely examined. It happened that she had the occurrence of preeclampsia, and then immediately the doctor said, "We can save you, but not the child.
Okay.
You have to move to the NICU. You have to move to another hospital." You had to go transfer you to the hospital, and from there, 5 days later, my father took the proxy decision and said, "Do what you can, do what you can, do what you can. It's a risk, but do the C-section." The C-section was done. Both of us survived, but there was a risk that either he would lose both of us or one of us.
Wow.
So
That's a tough
either
decision that your father had to make.
yeah,
Wow.
yes,
Wow.
it was.
And thankfully, he saved both of you.
Well, the fact is that the medical intervention saved both of us, but there was always a risk.
Yes. Yes. So tell us, Cristina, tell us about your childhood. What were you interested in your youth?
Well, as a child, I would say I was interested in music, reading, arts. But the fact is that every child is exposed to music when they're the first few days. The sound environment changes. Everything is tailored to them. But in my case, my parents and my close family at that time were very, very in tune with. They didn't know that they didn't know that CP had occurred.
Okay.
They just managed equally well. They only knew one thing: premature child. That's all they knew. Premature, 26 weeks. According to prematurity, the rule is the birth date and the birth date determines the development date. So it means that from June 7th, I was supposed to be born in October. So 3 months later. So that's the development point. So I was so as a result, the development timeline is 3 months behind the due date.
Okay.
So that's all they knew. 3 months behind, that's the development. And they treated it normally. They were very, very in tune with it. But as soon as the diagnosis happens, they didn't even care. We want this person. Nothing changed. We want this person. We don't care what the diagnosis is. We want this person.
We want this person. We want this Cristina. Yes. How important
Yes.
was
And I have to say this, for most people, the diagnosis changes everything. The diagnosis changes the attitude of the parents and the family. But in my case, it didn't, because the backstory to this is that my brother is 15 years older than me.
Okay.
So my brother, being 15 years older than me, is the first child. As soon as they got married, a year later, they had him, but they had the vision of having 2 kids.
Okay.
So they both had the vision of having 2 kids. So what they had in mind was having 2 kids. It doesn't matter what the deadline is. We want the second kid. So 15 years later, and 3 tries later, well, I was the result.
Here comes
But
Cristina.
they tried everything.
Oh.
They tried everything they could and
Yeah.
got me out of it. That was
How,
the backstory to that.
great. Now, how important was and is family in your life? I loved reading how your mother approached your disability. If you could, please elaborate on that for the audience, and then explain how your brother has greatly influenced you. You said he's 15 years older. Tell us about your mom and your brother in particular.
Well, I have to, in including that, I have to also say my father, because both of them had the same line of thinking. So
Okay.
both my parents had the same line of thinking. But as soon as my mom found out the diagnosis, she said, "Okay, this is part of the package. We'll deal with it." But the prognosis was she's not going to amount to anything. She's going to be a vegetable. She's going to be nothing. She's going to lie around, and she's not going to be anything. So the prognosis is more damaging than the diagnosis. There's nothing you can do about the diagnosis, but there is a lot you can do about the prognosis. And the prognosis was one professional opinion, but she was not paying attention to that. What she paid attention to was the interaction, the human interaction between us. She often has said, "What I saw was the light. What I saw was the light in your eyes. What I saw was the way that you looked at me. Was the way that you
Right.
connected with me."
Of
So
course.
we saw that, and my brother just followed suit. My brother was, "This is part of the package." The same idea, part of the package item. we don't care. He was in sophomore year at the time, so he was dealing with his own high school stuff, but he was very in tune with the first milestones. He was very in tune with those.
Right.
He was very, very, I would say, the disability did not change how he saw me. I would say that it actually made him want more from me. He never cut me any slack. Even as kids, even as a kid, I remember that he was very, very direct with me, very sensitive, but also very direct. He didn't coddle me. None of them did. There was no like, oh, she has a disability. Let's go easy.
Right.
There's no such thing as going easy. The race does the same way.
No easy rides, Christina. You didn't get any easy rides. They made you earn all your stripes. Oh, that's great.
Yes, and my brother was the one who, I'll answer this later, but he unlocked my communication in a way that I didn't understand at the time. But looking back at my journals, he actually unlocked my communication,
That's
not only
amazing.
at my education, but he doesn't even remember those details.
He doesn't remember how much he's influenced you. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Christina, did you encounter many other individuals like yourself in the CP world when you were growing up?
Actually, there was no sense. Okay, let me just suggest this historically. I was born in 1993.
Okay.
For everyone's context, 1990 was the year of the ADA, if you can bear with me with that. 1990 was the year of the ADA. So I was born post ADA when inclusion was barely an idea. Okay, so I know nothing else other than the ADA and before that. And so
Okay.
all the legal protections, all the social infrastructure is in place, but
Mhm.
the attitude of inclusion was such that, okay, you have to include, but there was no social etiquette as to inclusion. So I was lumped together with all kids who had special needs, who were developmentally disabled. Developmental disability is any disability that occurs after after birth.
Okay.
So I was with the deaf kids. I was included with the Down syndrome kids,
Mhm.
with the blind kids, everyone.
Okay.
CP included, and no CP is the same. So you might have the same paralysis level, the same GMC4 designation 453, whatever it is, but it doesn't look the same. I have to say that since it doesn't look the same, I had no one to look to as a parallel.
Yeah.
And those people that were parallels did not speak.
Okay.
The fact that I do speak
Mhm.
is a lucky draw
Blessing.
because because they my parents actually pushed for a therapy that was stem cell therapy,
Okay.
that actually unlocked my vocal cords. So I unlocked my vocal cords at 3 years old.
Mhm.
So then I started talking, and all was normal,
Yeah.
but the paralysis didn't change.
Right. Christina, I often speak with my guests about how their paralysis, whether it's para or quad, how that greatly affects us physically. The fact that we can't, do so much, we can't move our bodies as we once did. But what a lot of people don't realize is how these injuries and these diagnoses take such a toll on us mentally. How were you able to navigate your life mentally, knowing that it's been evolving process for you over the years?
Okay, let me see. Mentally speaking, since I had no parallel of my own of people with CP that were the same
Right.
or parallel of my own, since I had no parallel, I was we did not go to support groups. There were no such thing as support groups that actually helped you survive, helped you live. So we had no support groups, nothing. So we figured it out on our own, and the fact that we figured it out on our own was such that in special ed before at 6 and before, I was exposed to kids that had developmental disabilities, but there was one girl who was
Okay.
deaf mute, who actually served as a guide, like a singer guide. So I
Okay.
would track her, I would watch her, I would
Mhm.
actually learn. I learned to read sign, not speak it, but read it. I
Yep.
learned to read sign.
Yep.
I learned I learned actually to watch her in such a way that I can watch her eyes and follow what she was saying based on her eyes. Just
Wow.
so I learned alternative communication through her, but also the fact is that alternative communication did not forego.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I had no expressive language
Okay.
at that time. So after being moved from special education to mainstream education, that lack of expressive language showed the need for assistance, but it did not. But it actually made me seem that I needed more help, that I needed more physical. I needed physical assistance.
Right.
That hasn't changed.
Sure.
But the fact that the physical assistance was given,
Mhm.
but I was not participating as much in class as I should have been.
Right.
The the processing of information. I processed information, but I couldn't express it. Uh,
Understood. Yep.
I couldn't output it. So having that internally led me to isolation, to the point that not isolation in a bad sense, isolation in a good sense, where the only way I could go through what I did was watching media, engaging with songs,
Okay.
uh, engaging with music. I actually learned to express myself through voice acting. Although I'm not a voice actor, I learned voice acting cadences, techniques. Every single show that you could imagine of the 2000s, of the preschool years, of the preschool times. Every single show, I had those in the back. I had those at home. The timetables were equally well kept.
Yeah.
From that point onward, I learned to talk. I learned to speak. I had speech. I had talking. I could talk, but
Right.
I couldn't speak because I didn't have extended expressive language. And
Exactly.
in school, everyone was focused on the education output, and the education output was 2.5 years behind my grade level because I couldn't get it out there.
Sure. And you lead me to my next question, which is, and I read this in your bio, that your life took a major turn once you entered school. And as you said, you were different and you had to learn differently. And some of your classmates were not always very kind, which is not great. Take us back to that time and how all of that affected you and how it made you feel.
Well, I would say this. It wasn't the kids that weren't very nice. It was the adults. The
Wow,
adults,
that's amazing.
the kids, once you talk to kids and you're on the level of kids, they
Hmm.
ask you anything. They ask you everything. They want to know, they want to engage. But as soon as an adult gets into their heads and says, "Don't ask for that, don't talk about that, don't
Right.
ask stop talking about that, stop talking about this."
Yeah.
The kids get the fear from the adults and they don't talk about it. So that was the silence that I was referring to in the Bible. And the kids followed suit. The kids always follow suit. So if a kid asks about disability directly to me, I always answer. But honestly, the adults affect the interaction. So I was like, I don't want the adults to get involved.
Right.
So I often say, if the adult gets involved, I say, let me just talk to the kid. Let me just talk
Yeah.
to the kid
Hmm.
and talk about it.
Yeah.
And then no fear, no involvement. So that's the case. That's the case. But in terms of friendships and connections, that is where kids get involved. That is where parents get involved.
Right.
And I actually lost my best friend because her mother didn't like me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So yes, I was like as a kid, but that's just what happens, and I didn't even understand it at the time.
Yeah, that
So
must have been.
so what happens is that as a kid, I learned that best I said in my head, best friends don't exist, but they're telling me that you have best friends for life. They're
Yeah.
telling me all these social benefits,
Yes.
and they're like, I'm not living that. So as a kid, I would connect, but then I would be like, I would I would not pull back, but I would not commit
Yeah, you're not fully in, both
until,
feet in, yeah.
yeah, well, Sweden. So it was a way of saying, okay, I gotta connect, but I just gotta be aware of
Right, you have to
dealing with
guard yourself,
older,
yes.
not guide myself, but deal with older kids stuff because I had to go through therapy. I had to go through all and that's not something a kid goes through on a day-to-day basis, but I did.
You did.
So
You're a tough one, I
yeah.
tell you, Christina. How about in 5th grade, you read the book The Tiger by William Blake, and you said his words felt like a hammer striking an anvil, which I thought was a really cool quote. What did you mean by that, and how did the book shape your outlook?
Well, the poem, The Tiger, is a poem within Songs of a Distance, Songs
Mhm.
of Innocence, Songs of Experience. Songs of Experience is a poem of social critique. Songs of Experience is a book of social critique where the tiger is the centerpiece. And the tiger talks about how God formed the lamb, but also formed the opposite, which is the tiger.
Right.
And the fact is that physically speaking, I couldn't read. I couldn't physically read, but I could catch consonants. I could catch sound.
Mm,
I could understand what I was reading, but I couldn't see what I was reading.
okay.
So, so the fact is that every vowel in certain words, I wouldn't catch it. The vowels I wouldn't catch, but consonants I would. So when I said strike like an anvil, I
Yeah.
meant that the sound of the consonants actually made me react in a rhythmic way. Where I learned, this goes back to voice acting. I learned that the force of your voice happens in the consonants. So when I heard that, I was like,
I could
if
do
I can
this.
hear that, if I can hear that, if I can feel that, then I can just apply the image
Yeah.
because it just apply the image after that. So that's how that happened.
Mhm.
And that was because of an assignment that we had to do, which was write an acrostic of your name. And the only line I could remember for the T was bright, was tiger, tiger burning bright in the forest of the night. So that's the line I use in acrostic, and that's how I remember it.
That's amazing. I wanna go back into the voice acting that you're talking about. I have actually been working with a voice acting mentor and coach for almost 2 years now. I'm trying to get into recording commercials and narration and all of that kind of stuff. And so tell me a little bit about that and how, that came into your world and how fulfilling it is for you.
I don't voice act.
Okay.
I don't voice. I'm not a voice actor,
Mhm.
but I learned I learned speech through voice
Through
acting
Okay. And it helped
because
you
because
obviously because you do such a great
because
job.
that was my but that was my own that was my own idea because not as a kid I wasn't conscious of this as a kid, but
Mhm.
I was gravitating towards male voices,
Right.
the big ones like Pokemon, those animation shows, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay.
So those male actors would give me the force of my voice in such a way that I could feel in my throat the actual words, not because
The
I was
sounds.
copying the words, but because I
Right.
could feel their tones. I
Yes.
could feel the sound of their voices, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is how I'm gonna speak. But this
Okay.
was also conscious. I just followed the voices.
Mhm. Very
All the
cool.
voices around and the characters actually helped me actually visualize certain things that I couldn't express, but I could actually remember. Like one thing that my brother used to tell me, and this was before the voice acting came in came into my consciousness.
Right.
Was not get stronger, get better. He said before I actually transitioned to general education, he said I was going through all that emotional emotional adjustment of the silences, the lack
Yeah.
of communication, the lack of things. And
Yeah.
he said, and I quote, he said, it's not about, he said, it's not about getting, because teachers would tell me, get better, get better, do it yourself, get better, do it yourself, be
Sure.
alone,
Yep.
get stronger, right? But he would say, get strong, but he said, stay strong, get stronger, stay strong, get stronger. And he didn't see disability as the weak point. He saw the disability as a point of being.
Right.
Okay, you're already paralyzed. There's nothing wrong. There's just the functioning that's off a little bit. But
He
he
sounds
said
like an
he didn't.
amazing, yeah. Your brother sounds like an amazing guy.
He didn't, and he doesn't remember this at all. He's like, "Where did this?" And I'm like, "You just told me that." And I'm like,
Yeah.
in one of the shows, there's this guy in Yu-Gi-Oh. There's this guy. If you look up the clip, if you look at the clip of the voice actor is Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer. So if
Okay.
you look up Wayne Dyer, you'll find it. There's this clip where the character Joey
Yeah.
is telling his sister, who's just about to be operated on. She's blind from she's almost blind, and she's
Okay.
about to be operated on. And he says the exact same words that my brother told me. And I'm like, the exact same words. And I'm like, this is really weird. I mean, my experience happened in 1999. And here's this line coming
Amazing.
back at me, years later that has nothing to do with my experience,
Yeah.
but is the exact same line that he used to tell me. And it's not a quote. It's not a quote. It's a quote from
Right.
the show, but it's
Mhm.
not a quote from anything. It's just the same words, the same idea. And I'm like, wow,
That's cool.
this is how it's in my head.
Yeah, yeah. How about, again, judging from the great bio that you sent over, you wear
Yes.
many hats, Christina. You're a writer, you're a disability advocate, a public speaker, and interdisciplinary researcher. First of all, how do you have time to do all of these things? And if you could, tell us a little bit about how you've accomplished each and every one of these.
So I consider them part of the same thing. So
Okay.
I write as a
Hmm.
form of communication. I write as a form of creation, as a form of creativity, as a form of actually producing things. But the advocacy is the way that the writing gets out there.
Right.
I am recognized more as an advocate. I am a writer in
Mhm.
terms of output, but I'm an advocate in terms of work.
Okay.
So advocacy is the way I get recognized. Advocacy is the one giving me the living, so to speak. But
Hmm.
writing is the way I externalize it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think of it as the same thing. In fact, when I'm doing interviews like this is the work for me, not the work on the computer. This is the actual work.
Sure. How about tell us about the book that you authored, Poems from the Road. What is it about and in what form was it written?
Well, Poems from the Road is my fourth book, but it is a book that combines the Japanese aesthetic traditions of haiku, senryū, haibun, and all poetic forms in Japanese. But it talks about uh, an 80-day an 80-day road trip that I took with my parents when I moved to Massachusetts here, and I just started writing. Not that not not on the road necessarily, but I started writing about that.
Right.
So and then I found the form of the haiku. I found the Japanese forms I mentioned, and
Right.
I said, this could be the guiding line of the book. This could be the structure of the book. And the book talks about the actual travel. It talks about the disability, but it doesn't talk about the topics separately. It talks about the topics together. So the topics are part of the journey,
Right.
the trip. So the trip is the story in itself, but the trip involved a wheelchair, involved access, involved travel, involved sleeping in hotels,
Okay.
involved that, and
Hmm.
it talks about that. It talks about that centering not the topics, but centering the experience of just
Right.
being in the moment.
Interesting. And if I could, Christina, how do you write? Are you able to type with your hands? Do you use a voice activated computer? How do you do that?
Yes. Well, recently I have learned about this app called Whisperflow. Whisperflow allows you to write anywhere, everywhere,
Wow.
in any language. You can set it to any, and then automatically in any language. So if you're talking in Spanish, you write in Spanish. So if you're talking in Italian, you talk in Italian, etc., etc. So
Wow.
I have learned a lot of technologies. I type on a computer.
Okay.
So I learned from typing on a computer, but typing on a computer is slow.
Yeah.
So for me, typing on a computer is slow, and I only have the use of one hand and two fingers,
Yeah.
the index finger and the pinky finger on my left hand.
Okay.
So in typing, that's a very upward.
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
very slow process.
I I can show
So
you my hands here. Look, I have these are basically my hands are fists. I tell them fists of fury. So for me to type, if I can get, my pointer finger out, but and my shoulders are very weak. So I get very tired easily. So I use I just upgraded. I'm now using an Apple computer. And so they have a voice activated part that I use there that I do my typing with. And when I'm at work, I use Drag and Dictate. I don't know if you've probably used that before. They
I
have the
I
they
have
have
I have used every single dictation software under the
yeah,
sun.
yeah. And is this new Whisper thing? Have you found is this the best one that's out there now?
The the Whisper thing works. The Whisper Flow app works with every single platform, every single context, every single device. So you just download the app on wherever you are, and then you get it.
It's called
And
Whisper Flow?
yes, Whisper Flow.
Oh, I'm
And
gonna have
here's
to
the
try
thing:
it. Yeah.
you don't need to train it at all. It just learns how you. It just hears you and writes whatever you need to write.
Wow.
You don't have to train it at all. It's AI supported. It
Wow.
And honestly speaking, dragon is good for those
Mhm.
who have good speech, but
Right.
not for those who have good physical speech, but not
Yeah.
for those who have cadence differences like I
Yes.
do.
Of
So
course.
cadence differences make you shift in tone, make you shift in speech strength, and Whisper Flow catches all that
Yes.
and cuts out
Mhm.
all the filter words. So you do talk. So it's like if I'm talking to all the emails I've sent to you are whisper flow emails where all the hesitancies are cut out
Mhm.
and it just writes what you need to write. That's it.
I'm gonna have to check this out when we're done with this interview. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
I'll send you the I'll send you the link inside the app.
That would be
Yes.
great. That would be great.
Yeah.
How about Christina? One of your main focuses is having substantive conversations surrounding disability, adulthood, community formation, storytelling, and the emotional dimensions of disability experience. How can we as a community welcome in those who may feel alienated?
I would with adults it's harder.
It is harder.
But
I know. Yeah.
I can say that with adults it's harder. But here's the thing.
Hmm.
We just have to remove the fear of asking because if they're not afraid to ask, even if they make a verbal mistake, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what language you use. I don't care what words you use. If you call me special needs, okay. I care about the language, but I'm not gonna stickler people and say don't use special needs, don't use disabled.
Right.
I'm not gonna edit them in the moment. I'm just gonna edit their mentality. Oh,
Okay.
because kids ask intuitively. I've seen kids ask intuitively, and parents are the ones that are careful how they ask, or they're scared to ask because they're taught of silence. And when I can talk to a parent directly and
Hmm.
say, "Just ask me anything. Just ask me whatever it is you need to ask," I focus more on communication
Right.
rather than speaking correctly. If you're speaking to me in Spanish, if there's someone speaking to me in Spanish, I'm not, I speak to them directly in Spanish and I say, pregúntame lo que sea, ask me whatever it is, and then I'll just manage what is you ask.
Of course.
Ask, and then they will be given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How now? I think I'm trying to, if I remember correctly, you had an experience where you met. Was it Ian Mackay or was it Kenny Salvini? I know one of the two that you had a chance to
Well,
meet.
well, the thing is that I didn't actually consciously meet Ian when
Mm-hmm.
it happened
Mm-hmm.
because my mother was the one. My mother saw him speed by when
That's
we
what it
were
was. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when we were in Washington for my MFA. So we were
Yes.
in Spring, Washington
Okay.
for the Lavender Festival, and she sees Ian speeding by and sees something on his chair, which was the RAM mount of his phone.
Yep.
And she says, I want to know what that is. I want to
Mm-hmm.
know what that mount is. Why does he have it? And she's running behind him, saying,
Uh,
wait, look.
come back here.
He seems fine, but he hears her, and then he stops, and then we're talking, and then as we're talking, he tells me about here and now, and through him, and through his example, I'm not following his every
Right.
word here. But he said it's not about living with a disability. He said it's about living as yourself with a disability.
Yeah.
So living as myself. So I'm like, and keep in mind that at this point I am in MFA. I am in the master's program of my degree. I have no idea what services are gonna look like after I leave.
Right.
I have no services in Washington because I'm just focusing on the education.
Right.
On the education, I'm. I don't even know if I'm staying in Washington. I don't even know where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I had no idea that we were going to be in Massachusetts for my career.
Okay.
So I had no idea what was going to be my baseline. I had no idea where I was going to go. I had no idea what I was going to do. And this guy says that to me, and I'm like, okay, if that's the case, then just let me live my life like I've been living up to this point,
That's right.
and just go through it, get the services I can,
Right.
and live through it, because
Yeah.
I have to be very direct. The only service I get is the PCA support. That's someone with a developmental disability. You would think that I get developmental disability support. I do not, and there's one reason for that. My IQ is too high to receive developmental disability support. So I have no DDS,
Wow.
no developmental disability support at all. I just
Because
have
you're
the
a
wheelchair.
smart cookie.
I just have the wheelchair. I just have the wheelchair
Yeah.
and the PCA support.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I'm glad you had a chance to track. I'm glad your mom tracked down Ian because he is really an amazing guy. I just had
And
him on. Yeah. And he really is just a breath of fresh air. He lives his life. Like you said, he's got limitations, but he doesn't let them hold him back. He's doing his thing and he's bringing a lot of people in the SCI community along with him. I mean, he's opened up so many
yeah,
doors for so many people to get involved in a lot of different things. And so,
and
uh,
actually seeing what paralysis as an adult looks like. Again, I did not find community in
right.
the developmental disability community.
Yeah.
I found community in the paralysis community and in the deaf mute and in the ADHD community, in the
Yes.
in the
Yep.
adjacent communities that made the education accessible, that made the world accessible. Not
Yeah.
the category I was born into. The category I grew into
Mhm.
was spinal cord injury.
Yes. How about Christina? Tell us, aside from all of the work that you do, what do you do for fun? What is a day in the life like for Cristina Cortez with your family, and what do you do in your leisure time?
What I do for fun, I would say my fun, it looks like just the separation between work and being with family. Because if I don't have family over, if I don't have friends over, if I don't have a dinner over, I'm just working or learning or
Mhm.
or or researching something. But the research, the work of the learning, the work of the research is the actual relaxing for me.
Okay.
So, so the only difference is that either I have family over or I don't.
Okay.
So when it comes to family, I just break away from the computer and focus on them.
Nice.
It happens with my nephews as well. My nephews are so intuitive that at 6 years, this is before I'm even aware. This is before I'm even aware that they're gonna start asking questions. At
Right.
6 years old, my nephews started asking me questions about my disability,
Of course. Yeah.
and I was like, do not to the, to my brother and to his partner. I said, do not in any way answer their questions because I gotta be the one
Right.
listening to them.
It's got to come right from
And
you.
I trust my brother's explanations, but I don't trust the wording that could be misinterpreted.
Right.
Not because I don't trust him, I just don't trust the language involved.
Of course.
So I said, let me handle that when it comes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and my nephews surprised me. I'm like, you're 6 years old and you're asking me this?
Yeah. They're like grown up questions, right?
You're four. The younger one was 4 years old at the time, and I'm like, you're asking me disability questions that I didn't ask until I was 16.
Amazing.
And I'm like, why is this kid asking him about neurology, asking him about the midbrain injury? Why are they asking me this at this time? And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I just
Yeah.
gotta go with the punches.
It's good.
Right?
It's good. And they got the information right from you, which was good. You didn't want to, as you said, anything to be misinterpreted.
And it's not that they got the information from me, they got the example from me because
Exactly.
I wasn't explaining every single detail, but I was showing them, here's what happens, here's what I can actually, you can physically see me do this.
Right. Sure.
Um,
Sure.
and then I'm like, I
Absolutely.
told them the disability only becomes a problem when the access becomes a problem.
Right.
And they're like, okay, where's the ramp? Where's the thing? Where's where's this? Where's that? He's like, they're both so intuitive, and it's
Yeah.
the intuition that they have is emotional as well. I mean,
Mhm.
I talked about voice acting as an example of expression, but recently speaking, my nephew had a moment where he physically actually said this. He
Mhm.
said, we're watching one of the shows, and I just start crying. We're watching one of the shows because the show was the show that I saw back when I transitioned at 14. So when I transitioned at 14, I had no idea what to do, no idea what the IEP process was going to be like after
Right.
14.
Right.
I had no idea. So I'm watching these shows at
Right.
night, and somehow those lines on that show, Avatar: The Last Airbender, shows up in the stream of my night, and I just watch that scene,
Yeah.
watch that scene, and then 18 years later, I'm watching that scene with my nephew, and I start crying.
Yeah.
He's like, "Why are you crying?"
Mhm.
And he says, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And I'm like, "I have never been better."
Yeah.
What
That's
happens is, and then months later, he says to me, "If it matters that much, go and meet them.
yeah.
If it matters that much, do something. Go and meet them, collaborate, and do something." I'm like, "You telling me do something?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "You don't." And I'm like, this kid was so intuitive, and he says, "Do it if it really matters."
Right.
And I recently had that experience where when I'm talking with them straight up, and I'm like, this changed my life.
It did.
It changed my life because not change my life in the way that it saved me, but I had no
Right.
examples of people with disabilities. So
That's right.
the only examples I had But then we're the characters.
That's right. Yeah.
Characters having disabilities, intuitively having disabilities. It doesn't matter if the character has a disability. It doesn't matter because you're like, you see the character, you don't see the disability.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Which will then,
and I'm like, this scene actually changed.
yeah, the
And
light bulb went
because
off.
of, because of that scene, I was able to transition. And I told the actors, because of these scenes, because of these characters, I was able to have the strength to transition to become an adult and
It's
whatever.
amazing.
And I'm like, I told them, and then my nephew goes, "So how was it?" I'm like, "You wouldn't even believe I did because I have never kept eye contact with anyone in public in my life. I have never kept eye contact because eye contact is very difficult for me.
Right.
So the fact that we're on the Zoom actually makes it easier to keep eye contact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
so I never kept eye contact in public, and I'm keeping eye contact like it's the easiest thing in the world, and I'm like, why is this happening? I'm like, wait a second, I've known these people for 26 years.
Right.
That's why it feels so normal. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
It's great.
I even shocked myself because I'm doing scenes, I'm doing role play, I'm doing these kind of things that I haven't done in 18 years
Yeah.
because of the voice acting
That's right.
I didn't know that I had gone through
Yeah.
in my communication. And I am even going going up to the mic and doing a panel question, which I've never done questions in public. Never. And
Yeah.
one of the actors goes says, "Cristina, the author," because
That's
I've
right.
talked to her about, and I'm like, oh my god, and I'm like, did I just go up to the mic and actually talk, actually ask the question in public? I'm like, and
Yes,
my
you
mom's
did.
watching this, and like, how is it possible that my daughter, my kid, is doing this stuff? How do they not know this stuff? And the look on her face,
Mhm.
the look on her face. She had no idea that we were going to the con. We just got in the car, and I'm like, this is about my transition. I just said, this is about my transition. I just need to go
Right.
because my nephew Alex has challenged me. I have to go. I have to do this for myself. I have to reconnect. And she's like, okay. I still don't know what you're talking about, but we're going to go. And
That was
my
a
father,
Yeah, that was a
and my
proud
father,
mama moment, right? A really
yeah,
proud
and he's
mama moment.
like, "Oh my god," and she's like, she doesn't even register what's going on, and I'm like, "Mom, if this hadn't happened, I said, were if I were not serious about, if I were not changed by this, I would
Right.
not say half of the things I said to them."
Right.
And she said, "Are you being dramatic?" No.
No.
If I were being dramatic, I would say cliches. But I'm telling them honest truths about my experience, and for the first time in my life, and I'm telling them my disability story, and my disability story is not part of the conversation. Not part of the conversation. And not once
Right.
use cliches. Not once did they say, "Oh, you're such an inspiration." Not once did I give them cliches. Not once did I say, "You helped me survive." Not
Right.
the fact that most people expect. And I'm like, I gave them artist to artist truths
You
about my
did.
experience, and that's what they responded to. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, this is so good.
It
Because
was,
you
it
know,
was amazing. Which then, Christina, will lead me into my last question. What I ask of all of my guests, and again, these are individuals who were born able-bodied and had since had an accident. So the question is, if I could snap my fingers and you would be completely able-bodied once again, what do you think the first thing you would do is? And you and I had gone back and forth email-wise on how you might want to answer this question. So I will leave it up to you how you wanna handle this.
I'll answer it this way then.
Yeah.
And this way, I'll answer it this way. This question is the most honest question I have ever received about living with paralysis. Because the fact is that I don't have
Right.
a before and after. I don't have
Yes.
an able body before and after.
Right.
But I do have the the luck that my parents never treated me as disabled. I often say to people, I have a disability. I'm not disabled. I
Right.
have a disability. but the disability is quadriplegic. I say that, but I don't say anything else. I consider myself disabled by society. I don't consider myself disabled by accident, by paralysis, or by condition. I consider myself able-bodied because of the education I received. The education that I received was mainstream education. So I do have before and afters, but I don't
Yeah.
have a paralysis before and after.
Right.
I have a before and after of before surgery where I don't remember what I was like before the surgery,
Yeah.
but I do know I have a before and after. I do have a before and after of education wise. What was the difference between special education and mainstream education?
Yes.
I do have a before and after of before becoming an advocate and after becoming an advocate, before meeting Ian and after meeting Ian.
Yes.
I have so many before and afters that they are so they happen so fast within the first ones happened so fast within the year of 2000 that they're so close together that I can't pry them apart.
Right.
So I do have the sense of being labeled disabled, but I don't have a non-disability before and after. But I would say if I were able-bodied completely, I would say absolutely, absolutely. I would say thanks, but no thanks, because I know I'm no other life after that.
Yeah,
No other
you know,
life without.
it's funny, Christina. Do you know who Ali Stroker is? She's a young
Yes,
woman who was injured. She was injured in an automobile accident. I think she was only like 1.5 or 2 years old, and she's a paraplegic. And so when I asked her this question, she said, "John, I was so young that I don't remember being able-bodied, so I would not do anything differently. This is the life that I have, and I love my life, and so I would just do what I'm doing now." It was a really interesting answer, and it's sort of sounds like you feel the same way.
I do feel the same way, but but I would say this, as a person with quadriplegic cerebral palsy
Mhm.
who was made disabled by the social opinions of adults, by the social opinions of adults rather than kids, I
Yeah,
would say to myself back then, hang in there, there's something coming your way, which is the freedom of communication.
yeah, yeah,
Hang in there, that you're gonna get through this. But I didn't know that back then. So all I could see was my disability when I was actually used as an example of disability.
mm.
And
So
and the
you would tell a young Christina to hang in there.
I would essentially say that, but I know the younger self wouldn't believe me.
Mhm.
But I know the younger self wouldn't believe me because everything I was told was be quiet, be easy, don't ask for help too much,
Yeah,
don't require much. I was trained into silence
yeah,
by the special education community. The special education attitude was being a good kid was being quiet
yeah,
and not needing anything,
yeah.
not having meltdowns.
Mm,
And when you had meltdowns, they would pretty much rough handle you.
you're right.
They would rough handle you.
Thank goodness you're
Yeah.
not silent these days, and your voice is one that's truly needed, and it's refreshing for the community. I know that I have delved into some of your writings, and I watched your TED Talk, and you're really a remarkable young woman, Christina, and I wanna thank you so much for carving out some time of your day and joining me here on the QP. It's been an honor to tell your story and to get to know you today.
This is an interview that has forever not forever, but essentially changed the way I actually present myself, because this is the first time I've talked about all these topics in such a way that feels one to one.
It does.
And I'm not I'm not I'm not performing myself. I'm not performing myself as an inspiration story. I'm just talking straight up about what
Yeah,
it
it's just
yeah,
2
we're
people with a
talking
lot in
honestly,
common. Yeah.
honestly, yeah. And I've seen that in your podcast with other people. The details you go into, the details, the actual physical details. I am honored to be part of this.